Star Trek Strange New World Season 2 premiere is here, The Broken Circle. Pop Tot and I were thankful enough to watch the first 6 episodes, but let's talk about today's episode, The Broken Circle. Pop Tot, what did you think of this episode?
Well, I've got some mixed feelings about it. I mean, the new opening theme,
and new civilizations.
That new theme opening was really kind of cool. Right away, they're in space dock. The Enterprise is in space dock. Pike has to go save his number one. As you remember, how the last season ended, she was arrested. And there's a skeleton crew. He leaves it with Spock. Can I just go ahead and say what's on my mind here? We're legitimately going to start the season with Spock stealing the Enterprise from space dock.
I kind of hated this episode.
Oh, wow. I can't believe this.
I didn't like it at all. Like you said, we had to go from last season with the cliffhanger with Una being arrested for being an Illyrian. And I thought the jump point was right there. You know, best of both worlds, part 1, part 2, go right to it. And we see Pike talking to her in a cell or whatever. And I thought, okay, we're going to go right to it. Right. And instead, we see Pike and Una for about 3 minutes total. And then it goes to Spock and stealing the Enterprise to help La'an, who is on leave, but on this planet, and is uncovering some sort of false flag operation to have the Klingon war start over again.
A new syndicate made up of ex-Klingon and Federation soldiers has decided that peace isn't good for business.
Like you said, they go to this planet. It's a Klingon. It's a shared planet for dilithium, but the Klingons have it now, and they find out. Nguyen Singh finds out that there's a false flag operation. They go to rescue her, even though Starfleet tells them no. And
no way we risk a resumption of hostilities with the Klingons over a vague message which may or may not be from a former member of Starfleet.
In my mind, it's like, okay, well, they could have just jumped into a shuttle and gone out there and left the Enterprise, but they steal the Enterprise, which is not really it's not like an opening season episode kind of thing to do. No. And then they introduce Carol Kane as the new engineering officer, sort of.
Never mind me, I'm just finishing up my inspection.
But readings indicate a loss of antimatter containment.
And it was like, and she's a wonderful comedic actress, and she's played so many roles. She's a chameleon, but being an Enterprise chief engineering officer,
a really long story.
I just don't see it.
My face, I'm doing the cringe face. When she's introduced and she's kind of meandering and Spock is like, what are you doing? And I'm just like, she's using that voice, and it feels like when Jim Carrey was doing the original series SNL skit.
Spock, are you out of your fucking mind?
Well, it didn't feel right at all with the universe and what was going on. And this is something I mentioned in my season review, was that I felt the first season did a really good job of balancing tone, where it had no problem being serious, dramatic.
But let me tell you a way in which humans are not weak. Our strength comes from our willingness to see a partner instead of an enemy. In our culture, that is an act of faith and strength.
Intense, but it also could be playful, it could be fun.
If it is jokes you desire, I could summon the court jester.
Summon the court jester! Hold the jester!
And this, I'm like, okay, we have this false flag operation, which we didn't really know at the time, and there's this suspense around that, and we have to steal the Enterprise, and then she comes on, and it's like, okay, now it's a completely different show.
Right.
You might explain why anyone would engage in such subterfuge.
I can think of one reason.
The next thing was they're on the planet, the people that stole the ship, Nurse Chapel and the Doc and a few others, and they get separated, and Doc and Nurse Chapel get kidnapped by the Klingon faction, and they wake up and they're on some stolen little itty-bitty Starfleet ship that is going to start the false flag operation. And they have their go-go juice from last season, and they take it, and then and now they're trying to give the Doc like this hidden backstory where he's a war vet, and all that cool stuff about him is now like he's trying to contain being some sort of sinister force.
The war is over, Joseph.
Yes, but how can it ever be?
taking this heightened stuff. They're fighting all these Klingons, getting through the ship, and then they have to do, oh my God, they have to do the Princess Leia floating in space thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, good Lord.
Yeah, one of my problems with this episode was you should never in a script or a story watch it and then think, and then the characters do this and then they go here and then they're here. And there was things where, they were watching La'an do the trade deal with the Klingons and Spock was just there. And I'm like, okay. And then, even before that, when they got on the planet, it was like, well, this is going to be a hard planet to get onto because the Federation's not allowed there. And they were just there. And I'm oh, okay. And then, well, how are we going to get on that ship? Oh, well, they woke up and now they're on the ship. And I'm like, wait, what? And then it was like, well, how are we going to get out of the ship? Well, we'll take this juice and then as human beings beat the shit out of 24 Klingons. And I was just so bewildered. And then I'm like, how did the Federation lose a starship and it was underground?
An unmitigated disaster.
That part where Chapel is being held down by the Klingons and he does the slow motion Dr. M'Benga does a slow motion look and they have the camera slow motion stilted like a John Wick, the raid scene. And I was like, what the hell am I watching? You think about the first episode of last season and how they had to go undercover with the society, and then it all boiled down to the biggest conflict being Pike standing in the middle of a room of two warring factions and saying,
perhaps somewhere all your ends are written as indelibly as mine. But I choose to believe that your destinies are still your own.
But it was like, what the hell is this? It was so, the choice to not continue the cliffhanger and to do this, I just didn't understand it.
Now they're trying to, for some reason, keep it as a ongoing subplot that the Gorn are the bad guy when we knew that last season.
Yeah, that was weird to me too. Yeah.
And Admiral April looking at the screen and you see a Gorn attack ship and it's like, why are we keeping that a secret?
Yeah. I just found this episode to be extremely frustrating and not really like the other 10. My only thing, and I'm not going to get into spoilers or anything, is it gets a lot better. Episode 2 is where it should have started, which adds a level of frustration because it's like, why did we even do this episode? It doesn't fit with anything else.
Oh, yes. I hate this. It is revolting. More? Please.
Can we, for the love of God, please stop being meta about what captains say when we launch ships? They did it last season in Picard. They did it now with Spock sitting there. It's like when you're saying that, when you're doing that, it takes away from the fact that they all do it and they're all part of the character. No,
they used that joke to end Legacy and it was like, and then they did it again.
I would like the ship to go now.
Interesting part about it too was they made the joke in the trailer and I kind of was like, you kind of chuckle a little bit.
I would like the ship to go now.
But in the show, it's so much worse because there's all this back and forth.
My what?
Your thing. Everyone in the chair has their thing.
Captain Pike always says, hit it.
I don't know. And the thing I told Miss Tot too that I kind of forgot in my head canon was that this is not First Officer Spock. This is Lieutenant Spock. Spock would never go up any higher after doing this. He stole the flagship. Like this is the flagship of Starfleet, of Federation. It would be like stealing the Nimitz.
April just didn't so much even smack him on the back of the hand.
Oh my God. It was, it just.
And there better not be it next time.
The lack of consequence.
Consider that Klingon hangover your punishment.
Do you remember when the crew stole the Enterprise in the Search for Spock.
Genesis?
And the captain of the Excelsior tells Kirk,
Jen, your life and your career stand for rationality, not for intellectual chaos. Keep up this emotional behavior and you'll lose everything.
Yep.
I mean, and when they all went before a tribunal, a court, Kirk put himself on the sword and he lost being an admiral for it.
I'm sure the Admiral will recognize the necessity of keeping discipline in any chain of command.
I do, sir.
After explicitly ordering you not to go, you risked hundreds of lives and you risked peace in the quadrant.
Right.
He was busted down to a skipper. So it was like, okay, but April's like, oh yeah,
And there better not be a next time.
This entire episode just feels like a huge missed opportunity. It felt like a meatball down the middle and a just big whiff. I know it sounds like 20 minutes of grown men bitching, but it just...
No, and maybe I should lighten up the air and say there are things to appreciate. Strange New Worlds is not season 2 of Picard.
No,
it's still a great series. It's full of great characters, and they managed to stack the deck and have a crew with a lot of chemistry. And for some reason, that's maybe why we're bitching so much. It's getting out of the door in a really weird way.
Door slammed in your face.
And it's important to know that we both immensely enjoyed season 1. Season 1 was my favorite Star Trek since Enterprise prior to Picard season 3 coming out, and I really enjoyed the adventure, the crew, the episodes, the direction, the production value. This felt not where it should be. And I guess when you have that level of expectation, it's just a big kick to the groin. In summary, Strange New Worlds episode 1, The Broken Circle, what would you rate it?
I'd give it a C-/D+. I'm kind of on because there is still a lot to like. The visuals were amazing. The space station visuals were beautiful. Yeah. The opening theme was great. There are still some strong characters, Ortega and Nurse Chapel, and Pike was there for 3 minutes to enjoy. But I'm kind of riding the fence between a D+, C-.
The anger in me wants to give it an F just because I was super disappointed. I think I'm probably a D, mainly because the production value, the visuals retain a high quality to them that we expected from season 1. I like the cast and crew, even though I felt like some of them were kind of out of sorts. And I do enjoy the main theme, and I actually really enjoy Admiral April. I'm glad to see more of him in the show. It's a big missed opportunity. I don't know why the decision to go away from the continuation of last season was there. I don't understand it, and I don't like it, and I'm glad we get that continuation. The next episode was just so much better, and there's so much to talk about. But overall, yeah, I think it's safe to say we're a little disappointed. But as usual, we want to thank you guys so much for listening and supporting. Be sure in the comments to let us know what you think of this episode. Maybe we were too harsh. Maybe we missed something. Maybe you really enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments, and we will see you guys on the next one. Bye, Talks.
See you guys.